He is attorney Franz Borghardt. We do Legally Served at this time every single week. Normally, we're diving into active headlines and looking at them from a legal perspective, and we'll get to that a little bit later on in the segment, but we're starting somewhere else. Good morning, Franz. How are you?
How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
And I say guys in the non-gender specific way.
Wow.
How are you people doing? Y'all. Is y'all gender specific? I don't know.
Y'all is not gender specific.
Yeah.
Y'all is a great way to refer to people.
You people.
If you want to, you people is not a good way to refer to people, but
We're going to get
y'all
there.
is fantastic.
We're going to explain this.
All right, so we're asking the question of whether or not there are legal troubles with gender reassignment being paid for by tax dollars. So let's back up to talk about how you got on this scent to begin with.
So that your taxpayer money pays for poor people, disabled people, older people's medical needs.
Yep.
That's a thing, right? We know that. Medicare, Medicaid, your taxpayer money pays for children.
And I'm my
all that
brother's
stuff.
keeper. Okay.
So I was at a lunch table at a wonderful Greek restaurant yesterday, and someone posed the legal question about, hey, does Medicaid money go to gender reassignment? And my knee-jerk was, I said, well, that's not my area of law, but I would imagine, not to be insensitive or ignorant of the physiological changes, I said I would imagine no, because it's, quote, an elected surgery. And very specifically, I mean the gender reassignment.
Yes.
Well, apparently I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently your money, your taxpayer money for Medicaid, for poor folk, if they want to have gender reassignment or things connected to gender reassignment, like some of the cosmetic things. So, like things to make you look more ladylike, things to make you look more dude-like, not just the gender reassignment. Yeah, they can use their Medicaid. And by the way, for those who don't know, the Medicaid, if you're on Medicaid, it puts you into an insurance bracket. And so like you have to go to Blue Cross Blue Shield or whatever insurance company and say, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And we're paying for it. Hey, you learned something. Hey. And now you know. And
Yeah.
knowing's half the battle.
And I'll take it a step further. Even if you're not on Medicare or Medicaid, you can write that off on your taxes if it's on your.
Really?
Yeah, I started.
You rabbit hold it.
No. When you hit me up with this, I started digging in, and it is a tax write-off outside.
Well, that
of
I'm
Medicaid.
okay with. That I'm
Really?
Well, it doesn't offend my sensibilities as much as say the taxpayer money going towards.
It's the same principle for both.
Well, one, you're paying for it. One, I'm paying less tax money for it.
Paying for it, but kind of tacitly getting reimbursed.
So we've dealt with this as a society. We've dealt with this issue on a national frame with regard to prisons, bringing it back to criminal justice.
Yes.
Because if you're in prison and you identify as a gender that is not, and again, I'm not trying to be insensitive with my nomenclature. Mm-hmm. You're currently assigned gender. If you're in prison, there has been litigation about, okay, can I get gender reassignment in prison because you're putting me with a bunch of guys and I identify as a woman? Or you're putting me with a bunch of women and I identify as a guy, right? Mm-hmm. This is a deeper dive than, hey, which is it, a men's bathroom, women's bathroom, or a...
Well, but it all trickles back to that.
Right. So yeah.
We're going to get back around to that in a minute.
So let's say, hypothetically, I decide tomorrow I don't want to be Franz, but I want to be Francine.
Okay.
And I'm poor.
Yeah.
I'm on Medicaid.
Yeah.
It's not just the gender reassignment. It's, hey, let's say I want to have, the proverbial nice rack.
Mm-hmm.
That is a part of the gender transition, the transitioning, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you looking at my chest now that I said nice rack?
I'm not.
You totally did.
No, your bracelet caught my eye.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Wow, that sounds awful on radio.
Yeah. It's okay. I think I'd be a great... Francine would be beautiful. Anyways, point being, yeah.
I mean, well, and this is kind of an inside joke, but if you watch the Go Roo show at all, it's not. Yeah. You'd be able to join the league.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, that's true. Dude, that's the backdoor way. No pun intended. That's the backdoor way.
And that's where we're going to have to pause.
Yeah.
All right, so there are legal questions that come up from this, and we will dive into those a lot more after we check news, we'll check traffic, we'll check weather. Coming back, we do Legally Served every Wednesday with Francine Borghardt right here on Talk 107.3 FM.
So I'm a big I'll stop there. So what I was trying to say before we jumped in is, I think what bothers me more is the cosmetic surgeries after the gender reassignment. Like for example, you decide you want to be a woman, you have the gender reassignment. Okay, I don't really have a problem with that. I have a problem with, hey, I want to be a size C woman. I want to be voluptuous. I want to have a better butt. Those kind of cosmetic enhancements, should that be covered by Medicaid?
Are they?
I think arguably yes.
So that part I couldn't find a definitive answer to.
Keith writes, are they questions really need answers to?
I mean, because as long as it's unanswered, it's going to be fought in a courtroom.
I like it that you had to do something to your wedding ring to get it to where it fits.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's part of the weight loss.
Yeah, I know. I'm familiar. So you went to you and your wife went to the new, what's the new burger joint?
Shake Shack.
Where is that located?
Mall of Louisiana.
Because I've been looking, and it's surprisingly vague on social media where it's going to be located.
Yeah, and if you Google Maps them, they're not showing up yet.
So worth the trip?
Very much so.
Okay, good.
I mean, I'm going to find out Friday if it's as good as the Zealand Street burger. I have not had Miss Stephanie's burger yet.
No, it's not good. I mean, come on, that's not fair. That's not fair. That's like me deciding tomorrow I want to be a woman, and Alondra and I are going to have a powerlifting competition. Actually, Alondra is pretty strong, so I think she would out-powerlift me.
Depends on the lift.
What's your bench press?
Yeah, no.
Definitely more than me.
Women
not.
can't bench.
Yeah, my bench is terrible.
No, it's true. I mean, by and large, I'm sure there are exceptions to the rule, but like my daughter can deadlift 225, but can't bench 100.
Yeah, I think I'm at like 95 if I were to max out. And that's giving myself a lot of grace.
Got my squat up to 335 yesterday.
I guess I need to start exercising, working out, and all that.
5
This
reps.
new split that I started only has one leg day, and I'm trying to decide if I want to add another.
How do you feel about leg day? A lot of people don't like leg day.
Every day is leg day. Every day is leg day.
Is it?
Like, that's why
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, but I think I'm going to add another leg day in it because I like leg day, and I only have one. And I'm not a huge fan of upper body days.
So could you make an argument that the gender reassignment, is a mental health?
Do you know
I can make an
people
argument.
have that surgery and then regret it, and then they're like, "Oh, I don't want to be a woman anymore," or "I don't want to."
It's tough being a woman.
It is.
It's not easy.
It's not. I agree.
Walk a mile in your shoes,
You can't.
in your heels. I have a problem with removing parts of my body that can never be restored. Yeah. Like, because then you pose a question. If you change your mind, you're kind of, like, what do you do then?
This is gonna sound mean, and I don't care what people do with their lives. Like, really, I don't. That's your business. But it's like, I think I don't think that that's normal. Like, and it's been way too normalized. Like, I don't think that it's normal.
Well, the fact that you're
like one gender, and then you go to the extent to where you like change everything about yourself.
So the normalization is the very core of why we're talking about taxpayer money paying for it. Because you think about it, if we would have had this conversation 10 years ago, and I suggested to you, hey, your taxpayer money is going to pay for gender reassignment, for Medicaid, Medicare, like grandma decides that she wants to be grandpa on Medicare or Medicaid, you would probably said there's no way that's happening.
Yeah. So
we can move topics if you want to. I feel
no.
I feel like we've milked
you
this
say
one.
10 years ago, I would dial it back at least 20.
Okay.
Because 7 years ago, Caitlyn Jenner became Caitlyn Jenner, and Forbes did an article on whether or not that was tax deductible then. That was 2015. So
what's the idea behind the tax deduction? That
it's a medical expense. Yeah. And I mean, the whole argument behind taxes is paying your fair share, right? Based off of your income, not your outgo.
go. So yesterday morning, or yesterday midday, the heat was not on in the church.
Yeah.
And it was cold.
Oh, I bet.
In the evening, it was
I went for a run yesterday.
It was cold. Midday was perfect. Midday was perfect, though. Midday was like perfect. Like the 50s. No, it was cold.
When that wind started blowing around 4 o'clock. So I went for a run about 4 o'clock yesterday. I was planning on going 4 miles, and I went 2.
So Galen brings up a good point. Yeah. Medicare, you're paying as you go.
Time to take a look at your forecast. Here's WBRZ meteorologist Marissa Nuzzo. Sorry.
So Galen brings up a good point that your salary that you pay and you get paid every once a month, every 2 weeks, they take out from Medicare. So you're paying into Medicare. Theoretically, you're also paying into Medicaid state level.
Yes. Yes.
Sensitive plants?
Yes.
What if my plant wants to have...
It was a bit from a couple weeks ago.
Oh. Plants don't have genders. They're plant sexual. That's probably for the best.
637, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, 40 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Legally served with attorney Franz Borghardt, rolling right along. Bayou Gal says on Twitter, that's some BS. So as a cisgender woman, I can pay for a dude to get breast enhancement, but I, a real woman, can't get that if I want bigger boobs?
That is part of the conversation, right? Right. What if a woman who is poor, because that's what we're talking about with Medicaid, said, hey, for my mental health well-being, I want to have bigger boobs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm dead serious in this conversation. This is the legal issue.
I believe that can be written off as a medical expense, though.
But
not for Medicare or Medicaid, but
it can
for
be
your
written
insurance.
off, but you cannot get Medicaid to necessarily pay for it. However, if Franz becomes Francine, I'm like destroying any political. I've done much to destroy my political future, but if Franz wants to become Francine and he's poor, or they is poor, she's poor, y'all are poor,
y'all is gender neutral.
Francine's poor, and so Francine is on Medicaid and wants to have breast enhancement surgery. Is that what we call it? Mm-hmm. That might be payable by Medicaid. How is that right?
I don't know. I don't know, because to me, anything that is not life-saving, and spare me the arguments about the mental health, because that's a completely different topic for a completely different conversation. Anything that is not life-saving or life-preserving is, by its very nature, elective. And anything that is elective is a choice.
Well, I don't want to speak for women. I certainly don't want to be the poster child for women.
But apparently you want to be one.
But I would imagine some women in the world would say, I'm not defined by my breast size.
Yes.
That does not a woman make, right?
It also has nothing to do with the functioning of organs.
Right.
Like, everything else is a vanity argument.
Well, is it a vanity argument? I don't. To me, the gender reassignment portion is separate and apart from the elective surgeries. And I'm using that term elected because if you believe, hey, I'm supposed to be the other gender. Mm-hmm. I was born in this body, but for God's sakes, I'm supposed to be the other way, right? That's one thing, right? To me, that's one discussion. The other discussion is, hey, if I want to be a woman, I really want to have arching eyebrows. And to have the arching eyebrows, I need to have some kind of cosmetic procedure to, that to me is separate and apart. Do you have a right to be a more attractive male or woman under Medicaid? But apparently, and this is, by the way, this is a new landscape. Believe it or not, this is a newer landscape that we're dealing with. And it probably
It's not as new as you would think, though, Franz. We're already 7 years removed from Bruce becoming Caitlyn.
But I don't know that the United States Supreme Court has dealt with this issue yet. I'd have to look. I'd have to really deep dive and look in.
But it's gonna. In order for it to get there, it has to be challenged,
right? So, but
court.
I think I have a good feeling
in this day and age.
Yeah, I think I have a good feeling as to what this United States Supreme Court would do with this. But yeah. So like, and let's flip it, right? If you're a woman becoming a man, transitioning to being a man, and you have to have breast removal, a mastectomy, to be more man-like, does that bother your sensibilities less than a boob job to look more like a woman? You see what I'm asking? Does that bother your sensibilities less or more, or is it the same to you?
It's the same. It's the same in either direction. Whether you boob or deboob, it's the same to me.
Boob or deboob?
It's my
your
issue.
Taxpayer money.
Well, and that's where my issue comes in. Is we're talking about mental well-being and clarity within your mind, not the sustainment of actual life. Your organs will function just fine either way.
Is it just mental health well-being? Is there a physiological component? And I'm asking the question.
And that if the Supreme Court, if this were to make its way to the Supreme Court, that's probably where the issue would boil down to. That's where the actual legal issue would come in.
Right. Is your well-being? I don't know. And what concerns me is you don't really get a say. By the way, you as a human being living in Louisiana, you don't really get a say in where that Medicaid money goes and doesn't go.
No, we don't.
Yeah, it just comes out of your paycheck. Just, you just pay it.
So the other part of this is just how many people does this actually affect?
Well, it depends. I mean, if we're talking about taxpayers, it affects everyone living in the state of Louisiana.
No. I mean those that would actually undergo the surgery.
Well, I mean, do we have more people having the surgery today than we did yesterday? I think so, but I don't have hard data on that. I don't have statistics on that.
Let me re-ask the question. If everybody who wanted to be gender reassigned were able to be gender reassigned on the taxpayer's dime,
it probably wouldn't be a massive amount of money.
That's where I'm going.
I mean, taking the stuff away is probably less expensive. I don't have any medical basis
There's
for this.
no medical basis for that.
It's not cheaper to take away than to add on.
I mean, and at the end of the day, you're not like developing some kind of swap shop where you borrow one from one and give it to the other. That's not how this works, Franz.
I don't know how they do it. I'm just a lawyer.
So, we're talking about how recent this story is. So you sent me down the rabbit hole with this one, and the oldest article I found addressing the tax deductibility of it was from 2011.
But what kind of tax deduction do you? I mean, is it? And look, as a business owner, I will tell you, every tax deduction matters.
Yes.
Every straight face, by straight face, I mean things that won't get me audited by the government.
Yeah.
Every tax deduction matters. So in the sense that, but come on now, are you having the surgery to get the tax deduction, or are you taking the tax deduction because you had the surgery?
No, but okay, so you are obviously taking the tax deduction because you had the surgery.
Right.
You've incurred that expense, but it's an expense that it's a choice of an expense.
There's all sorts
it's not a necessity.
There's all sorts of benefits to transitioning. Like, for example, have you been in a women's bathroom before? It's so much cleaner than our bathrooms. They're nicer. There's sometimes spa music. There's fragrances. I mean, maybe I want to use lavender soap.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing stopping you from using lavender soap.
I mean, in men's bathrooms, how many public men's bathrooms do you see that have lavender soap?
Just saying, you could bring your own.
I could bring my own lavender soap.
And probably expense that as well.
I could play, in the stall, I could put some soft spa music on.
You've got Spotify. I mean, the world
Apple
is built
Music,
out. Fair enough. But yeah, it was the oldest article I found about the tax deductibility was from 2011. And what amazes me, though, is we've gone from that time to this time without this coming to Supreme Court, even in this day and age, even as taboo as it would be and as vilified as anybody would be to bring the case in the first place. Now, let me ask you this in the last minute and a half before we move on to our next topic and our next segment. Let me ask you this. What would be the basis of a challenge of this?
The problem. Real quick, the problem is, does Brian have a standing?
Why do you have to make me the bad guy?
Does Alondra or Brian?
Why do either one of us have to be the bad guy?
Why are you saying it's bad that you may say, as a citizen, I don't want my taxpayer money going to that?
Because I don't want to get canceled, Franz.
Do I have a legal right to challenge that? And I think the issue is, I don't think you would have, it's an awkward standing issue, right? I don't know how you as a citizen or I as a citizen who may disagree with that, because we disagree, by the way, we disagree with the way money is spent all the time.
Absolutely.
Right. You had a piece about Donald Trump on one of your earlier segments.
Yeah.
And we may all disagree over certain things, but do you have a legal standing to do it? I don't know that you do. So then the issue is if the state is allowing the individual who's going through this transitioning to use Medicaid money, then it's not. I mean, I don't see how it gets up.
Right.
How did it get that?
So, but okay, as we wrap up this segment in the last 30 seconds, that's where I'm going with this. Any legal challenge would probably be based off of an argument of I don't want to pay my taxes.
Right.
I don't want to pay for this in my taxes. And then you could back that up to say, does that account for everybody who doesn't want the nation to go to war at any given time, not wanting their tax dollars to go towards the military, or not wanting a border wall, or not wanting whatever the case might be? If you have something the government pays for that you don't like, is that enough for you to go to court to stand up against it?
So we look at sovereign citizens and we say, oh, those folks cray.
Yeah.
Cray. And that's what rabbit hole you start going down when you're like, I don't want to pay my taxes because of that.
All right. The governor did not testify in the Ronald Green case. We'll talk about that next.
So if I were...
we do need to get off of gender reassignment because we're in the heart of carpool at this point.
I just want to say that if I were Francine, I would demand a good first date like supper club. Supper club.
What am I
Everyone
missing?
says that's a third date destination.
Supper club's expensive, man. I don't look, my dating track record is questionable at best. I don't know that a third date is a $300 to $500 meal. Unless you're trying to, seal the
Yeah, is that how much it costs for real?
depends on if you're drinking or not.
Well, I'm gonna be drinking.
Well, yeah. Troy says the medical expense tax deduction doesn't bother me. It's analogous to deducting mortgage interest from a house operated as a brothel, a crack house. And everyone understands that, right? I love Troy. Thank you, Troy. So, yeah. One, two, three, 7, 3, 2, 3. I'd love to work for Spencer Callahan just because of the jingle. He's a nice. By the way, Spencer is a great dude.
Brother, you can talk to.
Yeah, I know. He's a great dude. I got lots of ex brothers. And by the way, the bracelet is like a pledge pin or a fraternity pin. People see it and they're like, "Oh."
It totally is, and wait till you start noticing it at Rotary. Jay Robe. So remember when Ronnie Johns, head of the Louisiana Gaming Control Board, came to speak to us?
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple questions for him afterwards, so I went up to the front.
And you saw it.
And Robichaux saw it.
Uh-huh.
So.
I think you should
More than a woman.
Alondra. I think you should stay Alondra. And not become. Don't become Alejandro. Don't become Alejandro.
Are you ready for hockey in the Raising Cane's River Center? We've got 3 dates on the calendar. Get ready for it now. In fact, at talk1073.com, tickets are available via Ticketmaster. You can visit it there. But December 8th, I want to say the following week, December, what would that be, 15th? And then one date in January. Raising Cane's River Center hockey is coming back in a big way. We're continuing Legally Served right after we check your money now.
Oh, goodness. Would you be Alejandro? Alex?
Just Al.
Al.
Steve?
No.
You wouldn't be
Philip.
Steve?
She's a Philip.
Badass.
He's a Philip.
Like, what's a badass name?
I don't know.
Like Blaze.
Oh, geez.
Nitro.
Just texting Garrett's people saying they want to know where I plan to take the conversation this morning. I was like, well, if he wants to announce his candidacy for governor this morning on my show, I'm down.
So I got a question. We just elected Senator Kennedy to be a senator.
Yeah.
If you're his constituency, if you're somebody who supported him and you hear him say, "Hey, I'm open to running for governor," are you like excited because you love him, or are you like, "Hey, dude, I just elected you to be a Senate. Why don't you do the job you just ran for?"
You want my cynical, honest answer?
They don't care.
At this point, the money's on the dresser. Do whatever you're gonna.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Nope. Worst case scenario is if you're a John Kennedy super fan. Worst case scenario is he loses and he stays in the job you elected him to. Best case scenario is he's now running the state and will appoint his replacement.
Not Gary Chambers.
No.
Not Gary Chambers.
No, it'll likely be Jeff Landry. 652 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, legally served as part of Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. We got Franz Borghardt for another segment. And while I appreciate the bumper music, it's time for us to transition to a different topic.
Francine will allow it.
Wow. So earlier in the week, Governor John Bel Edwards was, I'm going to say he was supposed to testify in front of a committee about the Ronald Green case. He did not, saying it was a conflict of interest. Franz, I want to talk about this from a legal perspective. How easy is it to duck out on testimony?
So unless it's a court of law, I mean, you tell me.
Well, it's a legislative committee.
Right. So, I mean, the conflict of interest. I think the first question is did he explain what the nature of the did he Andy Dotson it, or was it a, and I mean that, by that I mean, did he cite some law that just doesn't apply, or did he, I mean, was there an actual legal basis?
His attorney said, we've got something else going on. That's the long and the short of it. We've got something else going on.
So was it a scheduling conflict?
Yes.
Well, I mean, that, to be fair, he's the governor.
Uh-huh.
Whether you like John Bel Edwards or not, I mean, yes, the legislature can subpoena or require people to come testify and talk, but like, remember, it's not like if they were to subpoena you to talk and you're, while you do work.
Hang on. Stop right there.
Right.
Why does the application of the law change for him versus me?
Well, I think his schedule, well, you're a hardworking dude.
No. Forget about level of hard work. His status makes him exempt because of his schedule?
Okay, let me put it to you another way. If you were having a business meeting and someone were to say, "Hey, I need you at the business meeting on Tuesday at 8 o'clock," your response would be, "Hey, I do a radio show at Tuesday at 8 o'clock."
Yeah.
I don't know his schedule. Like his chief of staff doesn't call me and say, "Hey, Franz, this is his schedule." My point is more so that I don't know if it's an accommodation issue or a scheduling conflict issue. Did he say, "Hey, I'm happy to come talk to you guys if you accommodate my accommodations"?
His executive counsel said, and this was the quote from WBRZ's website, "Due to short notice, there is a conflict in scheduling with previously scheduled events and meetings for both the governor and me, including an event we will both be attending out of town. Neither the governor nor I am available to attend the committee hearing."
Right. So the answer to your question is in theory, there is no difference between you and the governor. In theory. But in actuality, let's be honest.
So if I were to tell a similar committee, I've got a scheduling conflict, that's cool? And I don't have to go into detail about what that scheduling conflict is and what the level of importance of it is? I
think, kind of like Congress, I think their subpoena power, I think at most may have a quote-unquote contempt of court component to it.
Mm-hmm.
To where if you don't show up, they can do some things, but like you're not charged with a crime. And then he's probably going to be part of active litigation. So can he also say, "Guys, I can't talk about this because we are going to be sued and this, that, and the other"? Because my assumption is he may be a part of a lawsuit because of his.
That's a relatively safe assumption.
I mean, I use "role" in this issue
roll
with
or
air
non-roll,
quotes,
roll or non-roll,
or non-roll. Yeah. So, now, is it suspicious that he had a conflict of scheduling? I don't know.
So I would say no, simply because he is the governor. He's going to have a conflict of scheduling. Right. You don't look at your Outlook calendar for 2 hours of me time anywhere during a gubernatorial tenure, okay? But at the same time, though, what on his schedule trumps the committee hearing, because what applies to him has to apply to anybody else whose presence is politely requested by the committee.
The question is when I really want to do something with a witness, I try to accommodate that witness's schedule, because it's more important to get that witness in front of me than to inconvenience the witness.
Fair.
So if we're doing my political authority is bigger than yours, and the committee chair or the committee said, hey, we want you here for this time, get here or else. Well, okay. Did they try to accommodate? Did they say, because, by the way, they can reschedule these committee meetings whenever they want.
Sure.
This is not, now the political response is this is an urgent and important matter. We need to make sure this never happens to anybody else. And so you need to find the time, partner, to come meet with us. I don't know. I mean, this doesn't like, in the event he just refuses to go and testify, that would be a different conversation. And can he do that? Well, I think he has some, and as the criminal defense attorney in the room, I will say, is anything he did quasi-criminal in nature? Is there a malfeasance in office assertion? I'm not saying they should arrest and prosecute the governor, but I'm saying there's some constitutional rights at play here.
So if there is that angle of it, if there is a malfeasance in office component to this, he would be right in because he's going to have to take this from a legal perspective later on.
They cannot trump a constitutional right unless they give him immunity. And I don't know that they will not be able to have, who can give immunity? Jeff Landry. Is Jeff Landry going to give the governor immunity? No. Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably Jeff would be more akin to the person prosecuting the governor. Not that the governor is going to be prosecuted for anything. I'm just saying.
No. And that's the other part of this, though, is, or
obstruction of justice, or.
I guess my last question on this, and we got to get out in 1 minute. My last question on this is, when it comes to a legislative hearing, when it comes to a committee hearing versus the actual courtroom, why is one happening before the other here?
Because the legislature can do that. Yeah. Like with DCFS, when they wanted to have a witch hunt. When the legislature wants to have inquiries or a witch hunt, you choose the term, he, she, or they. When the legislature wants to do something, they do it. And there is they can just do it. It's like Congress. Congress can do the same thing. And, okay.
Getting back to the accommodation part of this, and we are going to close out. None of the stories that were written said the governor was given multiple opportunities or different times or different days or anything. It was basically just, we need you here, and they said, nah.
I think that's a poor reporting, because I would want to know.
Yeah, but it's across the board, whether it be BRZ or the Advocate or the Illuminator or wherever.
So that would be the question is, hey, did you try to reschedule? No. Isn't that the question? Is the governor planning to meet with them?
Right.
So
no, hearing's Monday. Be there, be square.
Yeah.
All right. He's attorney Franz Borghardt for now. We do Legally Served every Wednesday at this time. We always appreciate you, man. We're going to take a quick break for CBS World News Roundup. Get the latest on Donald Trump's announcement from last night. Coming up next hour, Congressman Garrett Graves at 7:35, State Senator Sharon Hewitt at 7:15. Of course, top stories and trending will lead it off next.